You're up for Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. It's your final word on sports all across the state. Here's your host, Phil Kornblue.
Well, it really came down to who I feel the most comfortable with. I feel like I could accomplish both. I feel like I could accomplish my goals at both schools. So it really came down to who I felt comfortable with, and it was Gamecocks.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome back into Sports Talk Live Edition. Once again, here on the 5th of July. Phil Kornblue, Professor Tom Hayes, and Jared Rogers Martin, better known as Jarmart. 800-956-7266 is the phone number. Hope to hear from you tonight if you have recovered from all your holiday festivities. Of course, this is not my original line. Somebody else had this, but this is one of those weeks when you have a holiday on a Tuesday. It makes this feel like another Monday. So you've got two Mondays this week. You got the original Monday, then you took the break for the holiday. Though some people took a break on Monday too, but you take the break for the holiday, and now you're back to work. It feels like Monday all over again, though tomorrow will be Thursday. So tomorrow you'll be in kind of a Thursday state of mind for the end of the week. That's going to be kind of weird.
It is kind of weird, but they said they're taking survey after survey after survey, and they said if the most forgotten day of the week is Thursday, because people celebrate, hey, we made it through hump day, and they just looking over the horizon to Friday. They just look over poor Thursday.
And very little gets done. Very little gets done Thursday afternoon into Friday, I would say, at least based on what we see around here and watching Jarmart attempt to work. 800-956-7266 is our phone number. I hope you had a great weekend. We'll open up the phone lines and get your thoughts as we move ahead now. Really, typically here on Sports Talk, July 5th is the unofficial kickoff of football season. At least we're making it that way because you're ready to get at it. Look, what's today? Wednesday? So, next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, SEC Media Days, ACC Media Days Thursday and Friday.
Well, you got about 57 days, I think.
It's coming quickly, and especially when you look at practice starting at South Carolina now in, 22 days? They start the 27th. Clemson starts August the 4th. Everything will be coming at us very quickly moving forward, which is good because I think we're ready for football season to roll back around. Everything else in between football season's been a lot of fun. The basketball season with the national championship for the USC women and the men making a run to the Final Four. The baseball season was exciting in a number of different ways and also very interesting with the turnover at USC. I think we'll all be happy to get football back in front of us. Speaking of football, good day for USC recruiting-wise on the 4th of July. A couple of big fireworks went off for Will Muschamp and company. Jabari Ellis, defensive lineman out of Lake Marion and out of Georgia Military Junior College. He committed to the Gamecocks in the morning. In the afternoon, Levante Valentine from Melbourne, Florida, very, very fast running back, track guy, a sprinter, will give South Carolina some instant speed on offense. He committed to USC in the afternoon. The Gamecocks now with 12 commitments for the 2018 class, 13 if you include the carryover from 2017, Latique Johnson. So they are maybe a little over, maybe right around halfway to the finish line with this class, depending on how the numbers work out here moving forward. They've got a few other guys that are close to making a decision, maybe in their direction, maybe not. We'll wait and see. I know Dorian Gerald is, it's kind of confusing. He put out a tweet yesterday saying a couple of more days and was cited by a reporter as saying Thursday was going to be his day. Now he's saying, as of this afternoon, he's not doing anything on Thursday. He's not sure where Thursday came from. He has no definite time set, date set for making a commitment. USC or Tennessee with him, that would be a very big pickup for the Gamecocks based on what he's done in junior college. It would give them a third junior college defensive lineman for next year. So, Pro, you're talking about immediately having an older group up front for 2018, when you factor in, if they get Dorian Gerald, 3 junior college players, guys who've gone a couple of years into junior college. They come in 20, 21 years old. They're not some young pup coming straight out of high school, can probably help you out right away.
Yeah, people look at teams with great defenses and they always talk about Alabama with the talent they have. Yeah, they have talent, but they have depth. That's the key. And they say, well, so-and-so plays so well in the fourth quarter. Yeah, but they're getting a rest over there because they put the second and third guys in. So that's the way you keep your football team just dominating and fresh, is to have all that depth. And that's what Muschamp is trying to build. And it's going to take a couple of years or so to build that depth on the defensive line where you can run them in like they do in hockey when they run that second unit, that second line in.
Yeah, very important that you have depth on the defensive line, especially, too, when so much of your season now is played in hot, humid conditions. And also, with the offenses these guys face, they're trying to run down the quarterback. They're having to run along the line of scrimmage, trying to put pressure on the quarterback and sack him. Mobile quarterbacks, that wears down your defensive front. So the more depth and talent you can build up, the better. I mean, just look at Clemson's defensive front this year. They'll be able to roll 2 very good defensive lines out there at any particular time. Some of the young guys have got to step up and play maybe a little bit better, but they will have good depth on their defensive line to be able to step up and spell the guys and give Clemson an opportunity to roll in 7, 8 guys up front on that defensive line, guys that can play at any time in any game and give you some quality snaps. So ready to talk some football, and we'll talk about where we think the media will place USC and Clemson in their respective polls next week, in their respective divisions, and how they will be viewed overall in their respective leagues, with the ACC and SEC media days coming up next week. And let's see, we'll do a complete recruiting recap for you. Got a couple of days worth of recruiting. Let's see, we were last here on Monday, so we'll catch you up on everything from Monday night through late this afternoon, everything that we know at this particular time. We invite your phone calls too, 800-956-7266. You can email us, talkback at sportstalksc.com. You can also reach us on Twitter. We thank those of you who continue to sign up to follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter family continues to grow. And, of course, we are on Twitter at SportsTalkSC, at SportsTalkSC. A couple of big things happening nationally here over the last 24 hours or so. Justin Smoke hit a homer today for the Blue Jays. Blue Jays beat the Yankees 7-6. Ruins my day when the Yankees lose a day game. I'd rather wait till night to lose. Yankees are really struggling. Red Sox are red hot. They're now up 4.5 games on the Yankees after the Yankees lost today.
Yankees are 6-16 in their last 22 games.
Yeah, the bullpen let them down again today. Well, the starting pitching let them down. The bullpen let them – well, they had terrible pitching at the beginning, terrible pitching at the end. Their pitching in the middle was okay. That gave them a chance to come back. The Judge, all rise. Aaron Judge hit his 29th home run. He now has hit more home runs. I take that back. He has tied Joe DiMaggio for the most home runs in Yankee history by a rookie at 29.
Well, the Yankees are still going to struggle out of that bullpen.
They shouldn't.
They don't get to play in a Sandman no more because the guy's retired.
Well, Betances and Chapman are really, really struggling for the Yankees at the back end of their bullpen right now. It was Betances' day to blow it today. Came in and walked 4 in the 8th inning, including what turned out to be the winning run. Unacceptable. Unacceptable if you are a Yankee fan. We've got so the Blue Jays beat the Yankees 7-6. Oakland is leading the White Sox 6-2. The Cubs beat Tampa Bay 7-3. The Braves play the Astros tonight, hoping to avoid the season sweep by the Stros. They've won all 3 games thus far, including a 16-4 beatdown last night in Atlanta. All right, we'll be back at Sports Talk here on July 5th. Don't go away. Okay, we are back at Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Good to have you with us. Make sure you stay with us should you ever lose us over the airways. We've got our video, audio feed on our YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube or go to our website, sportstalksc.com. You can click right on the YouTube video right there, or go to the YouTube channel, Sports Talk SC. You can always watch us live, or if you miss a show, go back and watch it. Listen to us that way. Should never miss a show. We're also streamed by our stations on iHeart Radio and on the TuneIn app. So you can always get us that way. Should you leave the area where your favorite Sports Talk affiliate can be reached. 800-956-7266. Something I meant to talk about Monday night and didn't get around to. I'm one of those boxing fans who perks up when there's a great fight, championship level fight. Doesn't have to be heavyweight. It can be a lighter weight. And of course, over the weekend, we had the Jeff Horn Manny Pacquiao fight in Australia. And I watched it, didn't watch it live. I watched the replay of it and picked it up late. Not going to sit here and say I watched every round. Picked it up around the 9th or 10th round. And by that time, Horn was bleeding profusely from cuts all over his face. I'm thinking to myself, Pacquiao was just winning this thing in a walk. And, they went on the final, I guess they went 12 rounds. And Horn looked like he got hit by a truck after the fight. And Pacquiao had a little bit of puffiness too, maybe even a cut as well. And it was a unanimous decision by the judges for Horn. And look, I'm no boxing expert, the first one to tell you that, but it was a great fight. Both laid it out on the line. Maybe Pacquiao at age 38 lost a lot of steam in the final couple of rounds, lost some of the muscle in his punches. I don't know. I thought it was a bad decision from where I'm watching on television. I thought Pacquiao had won the fight. And I thought he looked like the winner in terms of post-fight appearance. I thought he landed. I don't know what the punch count was. I thought he landed in the last 3 rounds that I watched. I thought he landed a majority of the punches. But some people thinking home cooking. Here's the country favorite in his own land. I guess the judges were from Australia, and they went with Horn. Did you see any of the fight?
I didn't see any of it.
Yeah. Have you read anything about it?
No.
I read that he got robbed.
You think you read that he got robbed, or you thought he got robbed?
I did not see the fight, but it seemed as if general consensus was that Pacquiao got robbed.
Yeah.
Well, anytime you see a guy bleeding and the other guy maybe not, they'll go against the bleeder. The problem with a lot of boxing, depending on the fighter, is they sort of judge like the East German judges used to do in skating and gymnastics. The A's a 10, a 10, a 9. Then the American comes up there, a 7. Yeah, so I don't know how boxing does their judging.
Yeah, well, a lot of people wonder how boxing does its judging. You just don't want to see it go to the cards. I've only been to one professional boxing match in my life. Is that right? In person? Yeah. And you were probably there. I know you were there. Mark Breland and Marlon Starling?
I was there. I was watching it on TV.
You didn't come to it because you were the man. Don't you remember you brought us to Denmark to meet with Mark Breland leading up to the fight?
That's because I know his uncle.
Yeah. But you handled the media, as I recall.
Yes.
And I remember this was at the old, well, not the old, it's still there, the township in Columbia. Mike Tyson was there. This was a big fight. I had no idea what it was like to be around a championship level fight, professional fight. And I just remember one of the reporters who covers boxing told me, might have been Dan Foster, the late, great Dan Foster, who knew a little bit about everything. Don't sit next to the ring in a white shirt.
Yeah, because there's some blood.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So I sat back a little bit. I didn't feel like having blood flying on me.
And of course, that night, Mark Breland, not just that night, but a little later on, found out who his human kryptonite was. Because I don't think he ever beat Marvin Starling.
Marlon Starling, he was from Connecticut, and he was tougher than nails. He was like a miniature Marvin Hagler, if I remember correctly. A lot of lead in the punches, bald head, very confident guy. Breland, the Olympic gold medal winner for his weight. A lot of speed, a lot of flash, a lot of dance. And Starling just cut him down. He just cut him down with body punches and things. Yeah, Breland was a big guy, right? Wasn't he about 6'4", 6'5"?
Well, he was
not that big, 6'3", 6'4"?
He was tall, but he was thin. His deal was scoring punches because of his reach. But guys like Marlon, they could get into his kitchen. That was the kryptonite, to get into his kitchen, because he had a thin build in the chest area, but very long arms for a boxer. And he would score from distance. But if you got in his kitchen, you could beat him.
Well, it was an interesting thing to watch in person. I know this was a low level in terms of it being in Columbia. He wanted to fight in his kind of his adopted home state, right? Because he was from New York, but he had family down here. Used to come down to Denmark, Bamberg area to vacation or whatever. So he wanted to do a fight here in Columbia, and
it was broadcast nationally.
Oh yeah, it was a big deal. Remember a guy named Chris Hitopoulos here in Columbia?
Yeah,
nice man. He used to run the boxing program here in the city of Columbia many years ago. I think they were behind getting that together. But it was interesting to watch behind the scenes, the weigh-in and the pre-fight press conferences and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, gets me off the subject of Pacquiao and Horn. I thought Pacquiao, from what I saw, won the fight. The way he looked afterwards, he looked stunned when they announced the decision. Horn is 29 years old. I believe there's a clause in the contract that calls for a rematch. So maybe, they'll get together again. Do people want to see them fight again?
No.
You don't think so? You think people are losing interest in Pac-Man?
Yeah, well, he's getting on up.
38. He's 38.
He's getting on up.
All right, 800-956-7266, CBSSports.com. Dennis Dodd has an article out today ranking the coaches 1 through 130 in terms of being on the hot seat. Did you see this?
No, I had not seen
1 through 130. Who's on the hot seat? 1 through 130. Who do you think is number one, in his opinion, in the country on the hot seat?
Kevin Sumner.
No.
It's not Kevin Sumner?
No. I mean, this is not a mainstream coach or program. Troy Calhoun from Air Force.
Oh, please.
That's what he's got. 10 years, 77 and 53.
That Taj Mahal that they built in College Station, Texas, and these 7 and 8 wins and running number 1 5-star quarterbacks off.
Terry Bowden is number 2 at Akron.
Oh, come
24 and 73 in 5 years.
That's not a hot seat. That's not even a foot warmer. Malzahn at Auburn. Come on now. Old Mrs. Coach.
Wait a second. Wait a second. Oh, okay. You know what? I'm misreading this thing.
I thought.
What he has done, I thought he was ranking these guys. No.
The coaches.
He's not ranking them. He is listing them alphabetically by school. Then he's putting a rating next to them. And the rating, like 0 is untouchable. 1 is safe and secure. 2 is all good for now. 3, pressure is mounting. 4 is start improving now. And 5 is win or be fired. Okay. So I screwed that up.
And number
6,
5.
There's 2 coaches with a rating of 5, win or be fired. 4, start improving now. I'll get this right when we come back. All right, let me see if I got this right. Because I screwed it up at the beginning. The 2017 hot seat rankings from Dennis Dodd. So let me go back and take Mr. Calhoun off the number one hot seat. He has a rating of 1, which means he's safe and secure. See, I should pre-read these things. So as I scroll down, Rich Rodriguez, Arizona's got a 4.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so that means you better start improving.
You can always get the South Carolina job.
Yeah. Also, Todd Graham at ASU, Arizona State, has a 4.
Yep. Yeah.
See who else jumps out at me. He's got Malzahn with a 3. 3 means pressure is mounting.
Yes. I
think they're going to have a bounce back year.
That offense, if it doesn't crank up early, there'll be some upset people.
Yeah, yeah. Now, that Clemson game looms large. Dabo Swinney gets a 0, which is a good thing. A 0 means untouchable. Nick Saban has a 0. Joe Moglia makes a list. You know, he's now an FBS guy.
Mm-hmm.
So Joe Moglia is on the list. He gets a 0. He's 51-15 in 5 years at Coastal. Let's see here. Who else? Jim McElwain, he gets a 1. Jimbo Fisher's an untouchable, 78-17. Kirby Smart gets a 1. Starting to grow maybe into a 2 or a 3 by the end of this year. Moving on down. Mark Stoops gets a 3. Skip Holtz gets a 1. He's 31-22 at La Tech. How do you think Skip would have done had they hired Skip? Had they hired Skip when Lou left, as Skip thought he was going to get the job? Do you think he would have succeeded at South Carolina?
I don't know.
Well, that's not the answer that I want to hear.
We never
Give
know.
me something decisive. Do you think he would have? Do you think? I think he would have succeeded. Would he have? You know, would he had a run of 3 straight 11-win seasons and 5 wins in a row over Clemson? I think Skip Holt's a good football coach. I think that he recruited pretty well, especially in the early years. I mean, he ran things. The only problem he had was his dad. If the stories are true about Lou interfering with things, coming in and changing the game plan on Friday after they worked all week to put it together, I think Skip would have done fine. You know, he had been in the state a long time, had good connections. Bobby Petrino gets a 1. Orgeron gets a 2. Coming on down, Mark Richt gets a 1. D'Antonio gets a 1. You would think he'd be an untouchable. Rick Stockstill gets a 1. 72-66. Dave Duran. See, I would think his seat would be a little hotter. He's got him with a 2. He's 25-26 going into this season at NC State. Fedora is ranked with a 1, getting down towards Muschamp. Urban Meyer, 61-6 at Ohio State. Think he gets a 0?
No.
He gets a 0.
He does?
Untouchable.
Oh, okay.
Gets a 0. Hugh Freeze, he gets a 2 at Ole Miss. And coming down, Will Muschamp, he gives him a 2 at South Carolina. After 1 season, he gets a 2. Gary Patterson's an untouchable. Butch Jones gets a 2. Kevin Sumlin gets a 5.
There you go.
There's 2 guys who get 5s. Kevin Sumlin is 1. He's 44-21 in 5 years. He got a 5, and who's the other guy with a 5? Boy, there's a lot of schools here.
Yeah, Gus Malzahn had a 3.
Malzahn had a 3. I thought he said here at the beginning, I thought he said there were 2.
Well, I knew Sumlin,
2 coaches.
I knew Sumlin would have a 5.
Where's Kirby Smart?
It was not Kirby Smart.
No, where is Kirby Smart?
A 1.
Yeah, Kirby got a 1, I think. Trying to see who the other guy is with a 5. I must have skipped past that. I'll see if I can find it. And
you don't think he has equal pressure that Muschamp has?
I'd say he probably has more pressure.
Yeah. I don't agree with what he says, putting him at a 1.
No, I think he put him at a 2.
So he was.
Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly at Notre Dame was the other 5.
Okay,
yeah,
I knew.
59-31 in 7 years. I think there's more pressure on Smart because of the kind of program that he stepped into, the kind of talent he inherited. And, I mean, his season last year, their results in terms of what was expected, probably considered worse than what Muschamp did, even though Muschamp had a losing overall record, 6-7. What was Georgia, 7-6?
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? 7-6? Well below what Georgia expected with that team last year. So I would say the pressure is more on him. I don't think anything will happen after this year if it doesn't go well. No, they were 8-5 last year.
Well, you know, one of the key points is,
but even that 8-5, I'm sure around Athens and areas of Georgia Bulldog Nation, that 8-5 was like a losing record.
Well, you also throw in that last minute loss to Tennessee.
Counts.
You know, I think it counts, and I think you could split the fans.
Would you have taken that as a win had it been a last second win for Georgia, as it looked like it was going to be?
No.
Oh, you would not have counted that as a win.
I would not have. I would have counted that as in the pressure.
Bull crap.
They did it was an exciting game right there in the fourth quarter.
You don't accept last second wins in your thinking as a Georgia person. That's not good enough for you.
As a Georgia person, I can maintain this air of credibility here. I think it could have been. I'm going to say no. I wouldn't have counted it. I would say they won on a gimmick in the last minute.
No,
Did they weren't? All right. I think there's two different types of last second wins.
Did they win on a gimmick? Didn't they drive it down the field? How'd they score that touchdown to go ahead?
They drove.
It was a drive.
Yeah,
it was a drive.
It's not a gimmick. They took it down the field and they scored.
But they didn't play well for the whole game. I think there's two types. You can win in the last
boy,
quarter.
I tell you what, you have just lost everything.
You going for style points. You and Nick Saban. Nick Saban is blasting people. He's on the sideline screaming because he, like Bob Knight, is looking for the perfect game, whereas fans should be satisfied with a 1-point win. The key point to Georgia is how they lost. When was the last time you seen Georgia with a lackluster offensive line? I haven't seen it.
Well, you might see that this year.
Now, and then they lose to Tech. When was the last time they lost to Tech 2 years in a row?
Yeah.
So those are the two things you look at.
Yeah. You know? Yeah. Oh, looky here. I guess they must have put out the list of the players who'll be at SEC Media Day today.
All offense.
Hayden Hurst.
I want to see who else is going to be here. Let me get my complete list from the SEC. I should have it right here. Yes, SEC Media
Hurst,
Day.
Deebo Samuels.
I'm gonna talk about that. Yeah. May I talk about that? May I have the pleasure of expressing my opinion about who's going to be there without you just jumping in like you own the show?
I'll take that as a loss.
Can I do that, please? Let's see. For South Carolina, the representatives will be. They're all on offense. Did you notice that?
I just told you that.
Jake Bentley. Wow, sophomore quarterback. Hayden Hurst and Deebo Samuel. Three good interviews for the most part. Bentley and Hurst are very smooth talkers. Deebo not so much, but Deebo tells you things. He blurts out stuff. Remember, he was the one that told us about McElwain and a coach getting into an argument on the field after McElwain left. Remember that? Let's see who else we've got coming of interest. Alabama, Minka Fitzpatrick, Calvin Ridley, along with an offensive lineman. Let's see. Auburn is sending Daniel Carlson, Trey Matthews. They're sending a kicker. Why do you want to send a kicker? Trey Matthews and Braden Smith. Florida is sending a couple of DBs and a lineman. Georgia is sending Chubb and Michelle and Roquan Smith. It's a pretty good selection. LSU, blah, 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 Vandy, blah, blah, blah. Texas A&M, blah, blah, blah. Tennessee. You know what? All right, Missouri is sending Drew Lock, and Ole Miss is sending Shea Patterson. So only 3 quarterbacks. And Shea Patterson hasn't played at Ole Miss. I mean, he hasn't done a thing.
Yeah, the last couple of games.
Well, yeah, after Kelly got hurt.
Right.
But, okay, so only 3 quarterbacks will be there, and Bentley will be one. Back in a moment. Okay, we're back at Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, having a terrible, terrible night of not reading things in advance.
Oops.
Well, 4 quarterbacks will be there. The quarterback from Arkansas is also going to be there at SEC Media Days. So that comes up next week. We're going to have it all covered for you, of course, here on Sports Talk. I'll be hitting up the SEC part of things again. I wish they wouldn't put the SEC and ACC the same week. I wonder what the thinking here is. I don't know what the thinking was. Was it something that television wanted? Usually that is the driving force. Was it because this is a dead period in recruiting and the coaches wanted to be involved with this? Well, they don't have to worry about heavy-duty recruiting. I don't know. I don't know why they are going earlier. This is like the earliest I can remember media days beginning. We're talking July 10th now. Media days used to be usually the 3rd week of July. It was later in July. Now we're talking July 10th, the week after July 4th, for both of them. And they used to be split. One would be 1 week, one would be another week. So I don't know. We just roll with the flow. But I'll be in Hoover for the 4 days of the SEC, and John Mart will be in Charlotte for the 2 days. It's it's amazing how different these events are. The SEC is IBM, and the ACC is Apple. One is very suit and tie-ish, very starchy, and the other one is loosey-goosey, laid back. And of course, the ACC used to hold theirs like a retreat at a nice golf course and involve a golf tournament with it. I'm not sure they're doing a golf tournament anywhere around Charlotte with this thing. I've been to the ACC thing before when it was at Pinehurst, when it was at Kiowa, when Florida State joined the league. The ACC Media Days that week, that particular year, that week was at Kiowa, the Ocean Course. We all played the Ocean Course. They wanted a big to-do with Florida State joining the league. Guess they're not doing that this year. But John Mart will be there for that on Thursday and Friday, though you may be back in studio here by Friday since it'll wrap up pretty early on Friday for you.
They said expect to have interviews till 4:30. That's what Amy, that media contact over there. But I suspect I'll be back in studio on Friday.
And you're going to hit up, of course, Debo and a couple of the Clemson players that'll be there, and some of the other.
Dave Doran. We'll hear from
NC State.
We'll hear from
Petrino from Louisville.
Jimbo Fisher as well.
I would imagine we'll hit up the coach from Virginia Tech as well, as Clemson's playing them this year. So you'll have plenty of great stuff from that, and I'll have plenty of great stuff from the SEC and all the little tidbits that come along with being at SEC and ACC Media Days. And then we'll be kind of off and running to some degree. I mean, we'll be treading water for a couple of more weeks after that until we get into the opening of camps. Of course, between then and the start of football training camp will be the NFL camps opening up. I think the Panthers opened up camp in Spartanburg like around July 26th or so. That's just a day before the Gamecocks open up. But the NFL camps will start opening up around the country, and that'll give us a lot of meaty stuff to talk about as well.
Yeah, and I hated that they really built that new place at Flowery Branch, because it used to – my nephew and I used to hit up the Panthers that morning, drive up to Furman that afternoon, watch both teams.
We'll bring you recruiting coming up in a little bit. Also, some comments from Jabari Ellis. I was in Orangeburg yesterday at the Times and Democrat. They did a great job of hosting that press conference as he announced for USC. Some other notes to pass along to you. Max Runniger, former Gamecock punter for the Eagles Super Bowl team. The autopsy on his death was released today from the Orangeburg County Coroner's Office to the Philadelphia Media Network, and it showed that he died of a blood clot from a recent injury. 61, found dead Friday afternoon in his car in an Orangeburg parking lot. More precisely, he was at Edisto Gardens, I believe. He reportedly had fallen off the roof of his parents' home in December while cleaning it, cracking a vertebra. He refused medical treatment for the injury. And he then broke his leg during a subsequent fall. And so the coroner has determined that a blood clot caused his sudden death.
Well, the question is, all these falls, one from the roof, and then he fell and broke his leg, 2 different falls.
2 different falls.
He might have had some kind of equilibrium problem at that point.
I don't know. Very tragic, very sad, of course, to say the least. Not sure if we mentioned this on Monday night, but I'll mention it now. According to a source, former Clemson defensive end LaSamuel Davis is transferring to South Carolina State. He'll be eligible to play this season. Baseball. Source telling us today, College of Charleston has contacted Clemson assistant Bradley LeCroy regarding its baseball vacancy. His name was immediately thrown out there when Matt Heath was fired. Now we can confirm there's been contact. No interview or anything like that, just contact. And former Gamecock head coach Chad Holbrook, of course, expected to interview for that job too, that opened up last week. Also in baseball, Wofford right-hander Spencer Coleman signed a free agent contract with the Padres. He was second in the SoCon last season with 8 wins. So that gives the Terriers now 1, 2, 3, 4 in professional baseball. Matt Milburn's with the A's. Luke Leftwich is with the Phils, and Will Stillman is with the Padres. Alicia Gray, the former USC women's standout for a year, named the WNBA Rookie of the Month for the 2nd straight month. 4th overall pick in the draft, and she's averaging about 11 points and around 5 rebounds per game. The WNBA season, for those of you keeping up, will continue here for a few more weeks. It runs through, actually runs through September 3rd. Keeping up with Jarmart's a big WNBA fan from your time in Minnesota, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, not much to do in the summer in Minnesota, but go watch women's professional basketball.
It made covering sports in Minnesota real easy because there was no doldrums time. You had the top premier WNBA program, so there was always something to talk about. Whereas here,
you actually talked about it.
Yeah, it was every sportscast in Minnesota was a. I would even lead with the links on occasion.
I think that explains why you're here doing what you're doing. That kind of journalistic decision making puts you exactly where you are, my friend.
Not like giving hockey scores.
Well, that's true. Yep. Don't do hockey scores here in the South.
Why not? You can do them now because there's so many people transplanted from the north.
This is true. I mean, you go to Nashville, as I do from time to time during the hockey season, and the Predators are as big as anything in that market, bigger than Vanderbilt.
And of course,
probably.
The Carolina Hurricanes up in Raleigh has already won a cup.
All right, we'll give you recruiting coming up after the top of the hour break. We'll hear from Jabari Ellis as well. Kerry Tharp will be along. Of course, couldn't have him last night because we weren't here. So we'll make up tonight with Kerry, talk about the race from this past weekend at Daytona, an overtime victory by the 17 car. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. I made up a little joke, by the way. You want to hear my joke that came out of that race? Well, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. won. I think it's the second victory. And so he's in victory lane, and his girlfriend, Danica Patrick, came over to give him a hug. And I said, see, that's the only time Danica will get to victory lane is when
that's bad.
Ricky wins and she gets to go give him a hug.
That's bad.
Well, it's true.
It didn't seem like
so
he was
far
going to get in there. It didn't seem like he was going to get in there one time.
Well, yeah, he's got it going here a little bit. So we'll talk with KT about all that and more. Stay with us here on Sports Talk, 800-956-7266. Email us, talkback@sportstalksc.com, and on Twitter @SportsTalkSC. We'll be back after the top of the hour break.
Now, more sports talk is on its way. Listen to the final word in sports all across the state with your host, Phil Kornblut.
Okay, we're back at Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. Phil Kornblut, Professor Tom Hayes. From downtown Columbia Main Streets, we are the Sports Talk Show from the beautiful coast to the beautiful mountains and everything in between. 800-956-7266 if you want to join in. By the way, for those of you who are more inclined to hang out on Twitter, you might be listening to us, but you like to just deal on Twitter, reading stuff on Twitter, commenting on Twitter. After tonight's show, we're going to do a live Periscope on Twitter for about 5 minutes, recapping the show, taking your comments about the show tonight or any other questions you might have that you want to bring up that didn't come up during the show. Maybe you prefer to communicate that way. So join us around 8 o'clock, a couple of minutes after we sign off. We'll go about 5 minutes, talk about the show, talk about what you want to talk about on Twitter. Feel free to fire away your questions, your comments, and we'll try to respond to as many of those as we can. You think you might like to be on Twitter, Pro?
No.
Do you go on Twitter?
No.
Have you ever tweeted in your life?
No.
What will happen first? You walking down the aisle in marriage or you sending out a tweet?
Ding, 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 walking down the aisle.
Serious. You'd rather get married than tweet.
No, I would walk down the aisle. You told me, and I'm telling you.
That would happen first?
Mm-hmm. That
Okay.
would happen first.
Has it already happened? I don't know a whole lot about your mysterious dark past. He's not.
It's mysterious, but it ain't that dark.
All right, let's go to recruiting. Something that's always mysterious and can be dark at times. We'll hear from Jabari Ellis in just a moment. 6'5", 285. He's a good-looking kid. 3 technique. In high school, he played all over the line. They moved him inside in junior college, had 14 tackles last year. Up-and-comer, and you'll hear from him coming up. So he committed to USC in the morning yesterday, and then the afternoon, it was Levante Valentine, 6 feet, 188, Melbourne, Florida, speedster. He picked the Gamecocks over LSU and Louisville. He's a track talent, one of the fastest running backs in the country in the 18 class, and that's not opinion. I mean, just look at his track numbers in his competition in track. Bobby Bentley recruited him for a long time. Muschamp was heavily involved. They built the relationship with him. He likes them. He likes the opportunity at USC. He likes what they've told him about how he will be used in a variety of ways, especially on special teams. He thinks he can get on the field really early. Rushed for 890 yards and 10 touchdowns last season. He said when he scores touchdowns, it's like 50, 60, 70, 80-yard runs. Even though he's not afraid to run to contact and run through contact, he likes being out in space. He is going to come in for USC's prospect gathering on July 22nd. Defensive end Dorian Gerald of Florence and the College of the Canyons Junior College in California put out a tweet last night implying a decision would be coming on Thursday. And I think I saw at least one writer that had talked to him and indicated to him it was Thursday. But in following up with him to find out a time, he's telling me this afternoon Thursday's not happening. He said he doesn't know why people think he's going to do something on Thursday. He says he's not set a definite date at this point. USC and Tennessee are definitely the top two with him, I would say, at this point. This is a guy that has mushroomed in terms of interest in recruiting circles, both in terms of the fan interest and the coach's interest. He visited USC and Tennessee when he was home back in June, enjoyed both visits. For the longest time, this looked like a shoe-in for the Gamecocks, but Tennessee has come in and muddied up the waters a little bit as far as the Gamecocks are concerned, or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe Tennessee feels like they're going to get him and USC's muddying up the water. We shall see. But from a South Carolina standpoint, needing talent on the defensive line, needing someone who can rush the passer. This is a guy that had 12, 13 sacks last year in junior college. Somebody can come off the edge with speed and size. This could be the answer if they can get it. Also yesterday, Dortmund offensive lineman Jordan McFadden committed to Virginia Tech. Duke, Michigan State, and Rutgers on his short list. This one I don't understand, to be honest with you. I mean, Dortmund's a big-time football program and puts out a lot of terrific players, and USC and Clemson had no interest in young Mr. McFadden in terms of recruiting him with heavy interest. But Virginia Tech did, Duke did, obviously Michigan State too, and he chose the Hokies. USC's in the final 6 with tight end Tommy Trimble of Johns Creek, Georgia. The others are Georgia, Tennessee, Notre Dame, UCLA, and Fresno State. USC's in the top 11 with defensive back Joe Wilkins Jr. North Fort Myers, Florida. Also on the list, Notre Dame, Louisville, Kentucky, NC State, Arizona, Iowa State, Maryland, Michigan State, Central Florida, and Western Kentucky. Clemson target offensive lineman Jamari Sawyer told the Ohio State recruiting site 11 Warriors he's contemplating a visit to Columbus July 21st for Friday Night Lights. That's also the day of Clemson's all-in cookout. He does not plan a decision until after he takes official visits in the fall. Florida, Georgia, Notre Dame, and Stanford are also under consideration. He told David Hood of TigerNet earlier this week out at the opening that he thought he was coming to Clemson that day. Now he's telling Ohio State's people, at least the fan media, that he may be going to Ohio State. You know, I bet you if somebody from Gamecock Central asked him, he'd tell him, I'm coming to USC for a visit. Who knows? Anyway, that one remains open at this particular time. Defensive back Anthony Cook of Houston also told the site Clemson, Ohio State, Texas, LSU, and Notre Dame are the ones still in the mix with him. And Clemson's hoping to have him in on the 21st. Clemson offered, this is basketball. I don't know why I stuck this. Oh, you know what? Hang on. I'm not going to stick basketball right in the middle of football. That would be.
Yeah, don't do that.
That would not be proper. Defensive back Israel Mukuamu, Bossier City, Louisiana, released his final 4 on Monday night. Short list of USC, Florida State, Oklahoma State, and Indiana. He is going to announce on July 24th at Berkeley High School. Remember, he was at Berkeley before moving to Louisiana. Now, interesting that he's going to go back to Berkeley to have his announcement. Is that a positive sign for USC? He does like the Gamecocks, and they are showing him a lot of interest now. They kind of lost touch with him, he said, when he moved to Louisiana, but they have found him again. He was lost, but now he's found.
Okay.
And USC was the first to offer. So he's going to be visiting USC on the 21st or 22nd. He said he's not sure yet. And he keeps in touch with the coaches. Running back Asa Martin of Decatur, Alabama, plans to visit Clemson later this month. Tigers just recently contacted him as they scour the market for a potential running back take. He's had a top 3 of Alabama, Auburn, and Florida. In basketball, Clemson offered 2019 6'5" Isaac Okoro of Powder Springs, Georgia. He also has offers from South Florida, Florida State, Florida, Tulane, Auburn, and Rutgers. And baseball, left-hander Nate Lamb of Chesney, who's 6'5", 200, committed to Clemson. There you go. With the recruiting report for now, we'll pass along anything else we run across as we see it. You can always check it out every day, every night, every holiday. Who was busting it on the holiday yesterday? Huh? Well, not just me. There were several other recruiting-type reporters from their various websites in Orangeburg for Jabari Ellis. So kudos to them for working on the holiday. And USC, of course, with 2 commitments, kept us busy throughout the day. Anyway, even on holidays, weekends, leap days, you got it. We've got the recruiting for you on our website, sportstalksc.com, and on Twitter, use the hashtag STRecruiting. You want to say something?
Except for Thanksgiving. Nobody would dare commit on Thanksgiving.
Au contraire. Well, you know that the Gamecocks had one commit a couple of years ago, well, last December, on Christmas night. Remember that? Back in a moment. Okay, we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. We've wrapped up the recruiting segment. However, in terms of the reporting, Jabari Ellis had a chance to talk with him yesterday in Orangeburg, had a bunch of his family there, came up from the Vance area and from Holly Hill and all those areas. One of the folks who was there, former Clemson defensive lineman Mervyn Green, remember him? Out of Holly Hill Roberts. He was there to support. They're not particularly crazy about the fact that he's going to go to South Carolina. He's a big Clemson guy. That's primarily been a Clemson area over the years. You go back and think about it.
Orangeburg,
Lake Marion. Yeah, well, look, Jackie Robinson, Woody Dantzler, Jadar Johnson.
Well, you get the connection. Orangeburg.
Oh, Orangeburg. Yeah. And then you threw me off. Let's see. I mentioned Mervyn Green. Mike Williams. So yeah, a lot of Tigers coming out of that area. But he originally liked Miami coming out of high school, but had to go the junior college route, get it done there, as he's done, on track to graduate in December and enroll at USC in January of 2018. So I had a chance to catch up with him. He picked the Gamecocks over NC State. I asked him what's, at the end of the day, one out for the Gamecocks.
I feel like I could accomplish my goals at both schools, so it really came down to who I felt comfortable with, and it was Gamecocks.
Let's talk about the process, because South Carolina jumped on you early and maybe had the lead, and you visited there, maybe thought about committing, then went to NC State and checked them out, and they kind of stirred the soup for you a little bit.
Yeah, they offered me back in February. It was my first school they offered me. But basically, I knew from the start that they wanted me, how bad they wanted me. They needed me. So Coach Muschamp and Coach Thompson was really just putting in me every day. We need you, we need you, we need you. So that played a big part too.
How do they see you fitting in with their defense?
They want me to play defensive tackle. They told me if I come in and handle my business, then, I can start.
How are you a different player going into your second year at Georgia Military than you were when you came out of Lake Marion?
Well, now I'm more of a technician. I felt like I like to call it that. I feel like at Lake Marion, I was really just like kind of sort of a bully, but going, playing college, you got to focus on technique. So that's the difference.
How has your time at Georgia Military benefited you, both as a student, as a person, and as a football player?
Well, it really just I just had time to focus on myself. The Georgia Military is tough. It's tough. But I really just had time to focus on myself and my grades. So basically, that's it.
How do you feel about what Muschamp is doing now in his second year, the program that he's building?
Well, yeah, I'm bought in. I'm bought in the system. I believe in everything he's saying. It turning the program around. And just like I said, I'm bought in.
You said you made your decision last week.
Yeah.
What kind of came up in your mind at that point where you said, okay, this is it, I know where I'm going?
Well, it was tough. I'm talking about it was real tough. Actually, I wanted to commit to Carolina before I went to NC State. But after the NC State visit, I was pretty much undecided. Great program. But Carolina is just something special. There's something special there.
What did NC State show you that had you thinking hard about them?
Well, when I came, they took me straight to the academic center. That played a part. They're all about the academics there. They really had a system laid out for me. That was big. That was big.
In talking with Coach Thompson, what does he say he likes about you as a player, and what size does he want you to play at?
Right now, they told me they want me to play 3 on the 3 technique, right over the guard. But he told me I got great long arms, great long arms for the inside. He said my speed, I got nice speed for a big man. Just basically things like that.
You kind of come from an area that's pretty heavy laden with Clemson people.
Oh, yeah.
Mike Williams, for example, most recently. So can you see the Gamecock program catching up with the Tigers and getting ahead of them at some point?
Oh, yeah. Actually, I was joking with Mike last night that Carolina is going to beat Clemson. So I can see the Carolina program really, I feel like they're making a 360 turn. They're really on the uprise. Just like I said before, I'm bought in the system.
What did Muschamp say when you committed? Like, what was their reaction to the commitment?
Oh, he was messaging me all night, like, you made my night, big guy. You made my night. So and then after I told him my decision, like how he used to message me every day, it didn't stop. Like, coming up towards me committing today, he still messaged me every day, So that meant a lot.
Okay, Jabari Ellis talking about his commitment to USC. Good pickup for the Gamecocks as they continue to build their class for 2018. They're at an even dozen now, and he is the second junior college defensive lineman to be a part of the Gamecock recruiting class for 2018. You take a look at the class. Darius Rush, wide receiver from C.E. Murray. 3 offensive linemen. Lamarius Benson, Covington, Georgia. Hank Manus, Chapin. Maxwell Ayama, Murfreesboro, Tennessee, all have good size. The running backs, Deshaun Fenwick, Bradenton, Florida. Levante Valentine, Melbourne, Florida. Good place to go to get speed for your backfield down in South Florida. Bradenton, Florida. Bradenton's down in South Florida. Isn't Bradenton South Florida? Tampa. Bradenton's Tampa. That's more West Florida. Where's Melbourne? Is that a Jar Mart? Do you know where Melbourne?
My parents
Florida
live in
is?
Melbourne.
Oh,
Yeah, it's right about 20 miles south of Cocoa Beach. Just you can watch all the space rockets shoot off from Cape Canaveral.
off I-95 then.
Yeah.
Okay. Melbourne or Melbourne?
Melbourne Beach.
Melbourne Beach. Okay.
You go just straight east from Orlando.
Linebacker Ernest Jones IV, Waycross, Georgia. Another offensive lineman, Wyatt Campbell from Lugoff, Elgin. So that's 4 offensive linemen, maybe looking to add one more on the offensive line. Probably the kid they like the most is.
Didn't they redshirt a JUCO lineman last year? I thought. I just thought.
Not that I recall. I have to go back
okay.
and check. But the offensive lineman that they really like is Jovan Gwynn from a Charlotte area. R.J. Roderick, defensive back from Cane Bay. Of course, to Kerryon Joyner, quarterback, Fort Dorchester. Defensive lineman, Dantrell Barkley, Independence Junior College in Kansas, and now Jabari Ellis from Georgia Military Junior College. That's what the Gamecocks class, plus Tyreek Johnson, the defensive end from Lakewood, who is a carryover from 2017, will sit out this year and plans to join them in January. To the phones we go very quickly before we hit the bottom of the hour. John in Spartanburg. How are you, sir? Good to have you with us here on Sports Talk.
Doing fine, gentlemen. I wanted to ask you, you mentioned the school a few minutes ago that I rarely ever hear about C. Murray and the young man. What position does he play? And I just wanted to know a little more about him.
Well, he's Darius Rush, 6'2", 180, from Greeleyville, C.E. Murray.
He played everywhere, didn't he?
Yeah, he's an athlete type, but they see him as a wide receiver. Last year, playing quarterback, playing practically everywhere. He had 14 catches for 228 yards and 3 touchdowns. He plays quarterback, running back, receiver, defensive back, returns punts, and kicks. He's also a standout track performer in the sprints. 228 yards rushing. 228 yards receiving, 3 touchdowns on 14 catches. 622 yards rushing and 12 touchdowns. 1,149 all-purpose yards. 38 yards per kick return. 9 yards per punt return, 36 tackles on defense, and 2 interceptions. Just an athlete, just a very good athlete with good size at 6'2", 180. Wasn't all that heavily recruited with other offers, Old Dominion, Charlotte, Miami of Ohio, and South Carolina State.
Small school,
small town. Probably not seen a whole lot in recruiting circles. This is a guy that you go and see and you evaluate and you look at his talent and you say, this could be a sleeper. This could be one of those hidden gems from a small school. But I know South Carolina, from what I read, very happy to have him, and he's very happy to have the chance to go there. Thanks for your call. We'll be right back.
You are watching.
It is time to look back at the big race Saturday night at Daytona, the annual events, the weekend of Independence Day, July 4th, used to be called Firecracker 400. Now it's called, what? The Coke? No, it's the, used to be the Pepsi. Is it? Well, it's the Coke. Yeah, the Coke Zero.
400.
Coke, I'm sorry.
Make sure you get the right pour there, the right beverage in there, okay?
The Coke Zero. Coke Zero Thunder, as we welcome in KT. Kerry Tharp knows a thing or two about the proper beverage, do you not?
Well, I tell you, it was a heck of a race down there at Daytona. I was glad that they were able to get them both in on Saturday. And you know, lo and behold, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. for the second restrictor plate race in a row went to victory lane. So, you know, it's pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Did you hear the joke that I told about that particular moment for Ricky Stenhouse Jr.?
No, let me hear it. I'm sure it's classic.
It's a good one. It's a good one. Well, as you might note, he's won twice now, and of course, Danica's his girlfriend, and each time she's gone into victory lane to give him a hug, and I said, you know, that's about the only way Danica can get to victory lane is when Ricky wins, and she can go give him a hug.
Well, she certainly is there supporting him, and you know,
come on, you can laugh. You can laugh.
Phil, you know me. I gotta walk the line when it comes to something like that. But you know, you got to hand it to Ricky. I mean, he comes into this season, he hadn't even had never won a Cup race, and really the folks over there at Roush Fenway Racing, you know, they were really struggling the last 3 or 4 years, and so for him to come out and get 2 wins right now and you know, assert himself firmly into the playoffs, I think that's a pretty cool thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And of course, it was your typical Daytona restrictor plate race. Everybody bunched up, bunch of wrecks toward the end, red flag, overtime, everything you could look for as they were trying to finish that thing up.
No question. Thankfully, nobody was involved in too bad of an accident. But, you know, when you have that restrictor plate racing, Phil, that's the nature of that type of race. Cars are going to have contact, especially at the end when you're fighting for positions and fighting for the win. And so, you know, it's not surprising to see some of that chaos there at the end of the race, like you see all the time, you know, particularly on the last lap or two. And so, like I said, thankfully nobody was injured or anything like that. Sure tore up a lot of race cars, but, you know, right at the end there, Stenhouse made the move, and he showed people that he's around, and he's around and here to stay.
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know. You can ask the drivers. You can get a different opinion from every one of them. Where would you rather be on the last lap at Daytona, Talladega? Would you rather be on the point and able to block, or would you rather be, you know, in second or third and able to shotgun around somebody?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the situation, and I've seen it happen both ways. I've seen guys be at the lead in the last couple laps and make the key block and ward off their opponents and get to victory lane. And then I've seen drivers come from third and fourth place and get a good push there and get caught in the draft, and all of a sudden they slingshot up to the front. So I think that's kind of what happened with Stenhouse. He got a little bit of a push there, got past David Reagan, and went on to win the race. It was kind of interesting, I thought, too, there at the end of the race, Phil, where you looked and see who was running in the top 5, the top 10. Not exactly a who's who of drivers. A lot of those drivers had been put to the sidelines due to accidents, but you had guys like Michael McDowell, David Reagan, Paul Menard, fighting for the win. So I think that's what restrictor plate racing sometimes is kind of interesting, because sometimes the unknown happens, and we almost saw that here the other night.
Well, you're right. I mean, you look at the top 15, and there's a lot of guys who ordinarily, in a non-restrictor plate situation, wouldn't be in the top 15. Michael McDowell finished 4th. You mentioned him.
Mm-hmm.
David Reagan, he's had his moments here and there. He finished 6th.
Right.
Brendan Gaughan finished 7th.
Mm-hmm.
Eric Jones, a rookie, finished 9th. Chris Buescher finished 10th. Corey LaJoie finished 11th. Matt DiBenedetto finished 13th. Darrell Wallace Jr. finished 15th. So you see my point. There's and I guess, when it comes right down to it, it's being caught up in the traffic and being dragged along and hoping to get your shot with a good bump or whatever, with a good draft, and maybe just be at the right place when everybody in front of you crashes.
Exactly. And I've seen drivers that were running first or second with, say, 2 laps to go. All of a sudden they get out of the draft and they drop back to 15th, 20th in the field. And so, that's the thing about that type of race. It's unpredictable, yet it's exciting. I'm glad we don't have it every weekend, but I do like it having sprinkled throughout the season. It's kind of like a road course. It adds something different to what we want to watch each weekend. And so, again, it's just a different style of racing. Some drivers are fans of it and some are not, but I think the fans that go to watch these races and watch them on TV and all are pretty big fans of this type of racing.
Well, look at the group that finished 31 through 36. Keselowski, Jr., Harvick, Truex, Logano, and Dillon. Austin Dillon.
Right.
That's a pretty good crowd to finish way back in the pack. Of course, they were in an accident, all of them in an accident there, wiped them out, and that's what can happen. Junior's tough season continues. He just can't seem to get out of the way.
It does, Phil. And, he was on the pole for the race, and it looked like he had an excellent car and was set up maybe to have some success the other night, and slammed the wall there early on and then had to come back. And actually, I think got a couple laps down and then came back and got back into the game, got back in the lead lap, and then got caught up in another accident. And so his night was over. But, it's a tough thing, because I know he wants to win. I know he wants to get in the playoffs. This is his final season, and, it's going to be tough for him to do that, I think, because, time is getting short, and it's, some tracks coming up that aren't exactly some of his favorite, but, you never know, though, but you can sometimes, come out of a race and think, I don't really have a whole lot of chance here. And then things happen. You get to the front and some things happen there at the end. So hopefully that'll happen for Dale Jr. before the regular season finishes up.
All right. Kentucky coming up this weekend, relatively new track on the circuit. What do you like about this track? What makes an interesting layout for you?
Well, it is a unique racetrack. Of course, that's the home from where I'm from up there. My old Kentucky home is what I like to call it. But I was there the first time they ever had a cup race. And I still think people are still trying to get in up there. It was so crowded. But, you got to hand it to them. The passion and the enthusiasm that the fans had up there was second to none. They just needed a little bit better traffic pattern, and they got that worked out. But it's an interesting racetrack. They had a repave last season to try to take some of the bumps out of it. It's a fast racetrack. It's a track that has been very, very kind to drivers like Brad Keselowski, Kyle Busch, Matt Kenseth. those two in particular, Kyle Busch, Matt Kenseth, they need to win. And so I look for one of those guys, particularly probably Kyle Busch, maybe to be a real favorite up there this weekend. You know, it's a jam-packed weekend. They got 3 races in 3 nights. All 3 national series are up there. It's hot up there. It's tough. So, you know, a lot of good racing up there, but it'll be survival of the fittest.
Yeah, the trucks, I think, had practice today. Let me ask you this. Got about 30 seconds since you brought that up. Will we ever see all 3 series same weekend at Darlington? Would you like to see the trucks join everybody else?
Well, you know, Phil, we've talked about that a little bit internally. In fact, it came up on a call I had today with some folks from down in Daytona, and that is something that we would like to look at. I think it would add to our race weekend. I think we could do all encompass throwback. The truck series has been around since 1995. I think we can incorporate it into our throwback weekend. So, hey, let's take a look at it. Maybe we'll move forward with that here in the next year or two. Who knows?
Excellent, excellent. KT, thank you, man. Have a great rest of your holiday if you're still on holiday, and we'll talk to you next week.
Okay, Phil. Thank you.
Thank you. And you have my permission to use my joke, by the way, KT, if you want to, you know, liven up the party that you might be heading to.
Liven it up all right.
We'll be right back.
It came up on a call I had today with some folks from down in Daytona, and that is something that well, you know, Phil, we've talked about that a little bit internally. In fact, it came up on a call I had today with some folks rated into our throwback weekend. So, hey, let's take a look at it. Maybe we'll move forward with that here in the next year or two. Who knows? Well, you know, Phil, we've talked about that a little bit internally. In fact, you know, Phil, we've talked about that a little bit. We've talked about that a little bit internally. In fact, it came up on a call I had today with some folks from down in Daytona, and that is something that we would like to look at. I think it would add to our race weekend. I think we could do all encompass throwback. The truck series has been around since 1995. I think we can incorporate it into our throwback weekend. So, hey, weekends. You know, Phil, we've talked about that a little bit. We've talked about that a little bit internally.
Once again, thanks to Kerry Tharp, KT, for being with us here tonight on Sports Talk. Always enjoy hearing from him, getting his insights on things around Darlington and NASCAR. Love to see the trucks come to Darlington, make for a full triple header weekend for Bojangles Southern 500 time.
And they would run that on Saturday.
Yeah, because let me think now. Labor Day weekend, yeah, the big race, Bojangles Southern 500 is on Sunday, right? Because we got football on Saturday. They run the other races on Saturday and one on Friday. They could go Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They wanted to. All right, 800-956-7266 is our phone number. If you would like to join us here on Sports Talk, we got some time and some room for your phone calls. Take some baseball here for you in just a moment. Yes, sir.
No, I was about to mention this. Okay, you got Hurst, Samuel, and Bentley going to SEC Media Days. Is that because they're the three players you think maybe they thought the best ones to go up there, or the SEC wanted them there, or is Muschamp sending a subtle message that once one of y'all defensive players decide y'all want to stand out, we may bring you next year?
I don't know how they decide who to take to Media Day. And like I would have thought Sky Moore would have been a great take for South Carolina. Great speaker, senior, great story to tell about coming back from the neck injury. He's been through fall practice. He went through spring practice. I say fall practice, I meant winter workouts and spring practice. I would have thought he would have been a good one. DJ Smith is an excellent talker at safety, and he's a big-time player for them. I think DJ Smith is an excellent safety. He really showed me last year the ability to come up on the run. He is a big hitter. He brings a lot of noise when he arrives. I like him as a safety. Defensively, I think the Gamecocks just have to be better. They just have to be better. The second year under this system with these coaches, more reaction, less thinking, maybe. I think guys like Taylor Stallworth in the middle, I think he can be quite a load. I think they've got better depth all the way around. I mean, some guys have got to step up and show it, but I think their front four of Sawyer and Jones, Stallworth, and Wanham, I mean, they're not going to be confused with Clemson's front four. All right, let's don't get crazy here. But that's not a bad front four, I don't think. And then guys like Kobe Smith, MJ Webb, Kier Thomas, Aaron Thompson, all young guys, they got to show they can play. And then you got to have a Shameik Blackshear finally contribute in a big way. So I think they're going to be better simply because second year in this defensive scheme, a year older. Linebackers I like. I'll put their linebackers up against most anybody they'll face this year. They usually won't have but two out there at a time, I guess. Brunson, Williams, Sky Moore. I think the secondary should be improved simply because it went through the growing process last year. I think Rashad Fenton is a good corner. Lamons and King, I think King will be a better player because of what happened to him against Mike Williams, that embarrassment.
Yeah, but see, there's what I'm talking about. The memory of people, what they remember last. Because at the beginning of the year, before you tested the depth of your defense, he made some acrobatic interceptions in games. And as I said before, people would laugh at that Mike Williams deal. That's not what I saw. I saw a guy trying to bring somebody down, and his teammates just stand there looking at it.
Yeah.
When they should have been hitting him low while he was hitting him high. So,
well, he really wasn't hitting him high. He was really kind of just riding on his back, not able to bring him down. I mean, he jumped on his back. He wrapped his arms around his body, his upper torso, and could not by himself bring him down. But you're right. He didn't have any help.
Well, I'm thinking the reason he did that is because he saw where he was and decided I'll jump and rake for the football.
Mm-hmm.
And he missed the football. And, of course, nobody helped him. And then, of course, Mike Williams drags him in the end zone. But he made some – the interesting thing about them talking about he didn't lift weights. Well, I'm thinking that especially that interception in the end zone when he turned the opposite way and almost backhanded the football,
mm-hmm.
It seems that in his idea, a lot of that reach will be lost with weightlifting. I know that sounds crazy, but and let's face it, in the NFL, you see more and more corners cover guys they don't hit. And people say, well, they don't hit anybody. Well, look, he's blanketing the receiver. And you're going to see more and more of that. They used to get on Dion for not hitting anybody.
Yep.
Dion say, you see anybody catching any touchdowns over me?
Right.
Well, see, that's the deal.
That's the main thing from the standpoint of when you're Deion Sanders and you're a great cover corner. I mean, make a tackle, well, sure, but his primary reason for being out there and the reason he's making all that money is to defend the pass.
Mm-hmm.
And that's become even more important now with the pass-happy NFL that you have today.
I think the key point now, Corn, we're going to see later on is we're going to see more athletic guys being put on the defensive line, especially in college, because I'm thinking with more and more of these teams going to the 2- and 3-step drop, you're not going to get to the quarterback. So the next best thing, and we've seen it before, guys with the ability to get off a block and leap and just reject passes before they get to the receiver. I just think you're going to see guys more adroit playing on that defensive front.
By the way, NFL Network the other day replayed the Super Bowl, and the Falcons still lost. They still managed to lose that game.
But as they say, what is that? Accept the suck.
Accept the who?
Accept the suck.
Explain.
Mentally, you're going to gear up with still a relatively young team, one of the youngest in the NFL, and you accept what happened and you come back. In fact, you notice that the new commercials, that what is it, Gatorade using the commercials? Yeah. Well, Matt Ryan is featured. The loss. Use the loss as your fuel.
Yeah. See you, Falcons. We won't hear from you from another couple of years. There'll be another.
That is very
the next
wrong.
time the Falcons make the Super Bowl, if they ever make it again, will be with somebody else at quarterback.
No, but see, here's the thing you're forgetting.
Because Matty will be 45.
Here's the thing you're
and he's
forgetting.
no Brady playing.
No, he's 32.
But he'll be like 40-something for them.
But they're
going to fall victim to the losers jinx.
Why
fade away?
Why did Buffalo go back 4 in a row?
Well, back then the league wasn't as balanced as it is now.
No, they get back because they still had a young, hungry team that did not care that they lost one football game, and they kept coming back.
See you, Falcons.
Lost 4. I would prefer not to go to the Super Bowl for 10 years than go 4 times and lose every time.
Yeah. Every time you open your mouth about something, we learn something more about why you are kind of deranged. So you would rather not even go to the Super Bowl than go and lose. That's just
4 times in a row. 4 times in a row.
Well, I mean, you got a chance to win each of those 4 times. Wouldn't you rather have a chance to win?
No, we're doing hindsight.
Rather than
hindsight.
sit at home and watch on television.
4 games.
You've already lost all 4.
Well, then
you don't think they wanted to go back for a 5th and try again, even if it meant 5 straight losses?
I don't think.
And
I think
remember,
you do a complete return
one of those
fans.
4, I can't remember which one it was.
The Giants.
Their kicker shanked a winning field goal.
It was the Giants.
Was that the Giants?
The Giants. And the Giants were playing their backup quarterback, and he fumbled the ball in the end zone. It was rolling on his hand, and he happened to hold it. If it falls in there, the
Buffalo
Bills fall on that, and they may have the touchdown that puts them ahead.
That'll do it. For those of you on Twitter, stand by. A little live post-Sports Talk Periscope coming your way. We'll check that out. Thank you, Pro. Thank you, John Martin. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.
National anthem.
Oh, you mean the one in San Diego? Oh, yeah.
I thought it was in Tampa. Was that in Tampa?
Jacob Bartleson. This is somebody applying.